Microphone check, and we're live. Welcome, everybody, to an amazing, incredibly rare opportunity to get some real legends of gaming together for an amazing cause. I'm Kenneth Vidiuk, Chad Fault 76 podcast. With me, as always, as the one and only Wes Johnson here as my co-host. How are you, Wes? It really is. We are joined by four 20+ year veterans of Bethesda. Emil Pagliarulo, design director of Bethesda Game Studios. How are you? I was trying. We're also joined by Will Shen, lead quest designer, Bethesda Game Studios. How are you, Will? Oh, hang on. Sorry, chat. I unmuted the wrong thing. So we just did introductions. Amateur hour. All right.
Now
So
we're
sorry.
all here.
So one more time, I am joined by Wes Johnson, Emil Pagliarulo, design director, Bethesda Game Studios. A really amazing panel that we have going to here today. Right above me is Will Shen, lead quest designer, Bethesda Game Studios. How are you, Will?
Great.
And Alan Nain, senior game designer, Bethesda Game Studios. How are you, Alan?
Doing great. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm really sad that we won't get a chance to see what's on that amazing illuminated shelf in the background.
It's a lot of gaming, a lot of gaming materials, tabletop gaming stuff.
It's that lighting that says, ah.
Exactly.
And Brian, it's Chapin, right?
That is correct.
Perfect. Quest
Chappy.
designer, Bethesda Game Studios, and likes to be called Chappy.
Likes is a strong word.
Okay.
Tolerates.
Tolerates, good enough.
I'm not stopping, so you're still chappy to me.
That's
Sorry.
fine.
Well, we are, so we're here today to talk about the process of writing games, the worlds that Bethesda has created. And I thought a great question to start everyone off with was how you briefly became a game designer to begin with. Emil, at age 13, Ireland or a gift?
That's a story that's story was my mother was said, I'm going to Ireland and you can come with me or get a gift instead. I chose the gift. It was a Commodore 64. Never mind.
Wow.
Yep.
And so it began.
Yep. True enough.
Will, what about you?
Well, for gaming, I had a Nintendo growing up, so I played all the Final Fantasy games, and then obviously on the Super Nintendo when that came out as well.
Awesome. And Alan?
I mean, I was gaming ever since a controller would work in my hands. So it's like anything, any gaming system. My parents were great about giving me those. And I started on the Commodore VIC-20 and a Timex Sinclair 1000 were my first computers. Yes, I'm very old. That's fine.
Yeah. I started on the
Well,
Atari. I didn't start on the C64. I started on the Atari. Let's clear that up right now. Come on.
Brian, what about you?
So I'll be honest, I fell into this. I got incredibly lucky. I went to see Star Wars: The Phantom Menace in 1999, and before it came on, there was an ad for a company that did video game testing, and I thought I could do that. So I did that for a few years. That company was contracted to do work for Bethesda, and after a couple of years, everyone was sort of fleeing that ship, and a couple of people came over to Bethesda and said, "Hey, why don't you come on over?" And that was 23 years ago.
Wow, that's awesome.
Nice.
And we have a cat.
Oh, yes, I do have a cat.
Oh, that's wonderful, because when we first started to do this, and you first agreed to do this several weeks ago, that cat escaped.
Yeah, I was super stressed because he went missing for a few days. Yeah.
Well,
That's
folks,
wonderful.
we're here for the Alzheimer's Association, Wes Johnson's Voice-a-Palooza. We're now at $14,074.52 that the Fallout and Elder Scrolls communities have raised. Exceptionally well done. We will be taking some questions from chat, specifically questions that are greased a little bit with some donations. So any amount will do. We really want to make a difference here for the Alzheimer's Association. Particularly, it has not escaped notice that it is Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Wes himself lost his mom to this awful disease. I've lost people to it too. And 1 in 9 people. So it's unfortunately a matter of time before someone you love is going to be hit with this. So
yeah, on this
anything
Mother's
we can
Day,
do.
I won't be able to do something specifically in person for my mother this Mother's Day. So this is what we're doing. I lost my grandmother, my mother, an aunt is suffering. One of my favorite crazy aunt is going through this right now. And what's terrible about this disease, about Alzheimer's, about dementia, is that it takes who you are, your memories, the things you've accumulated, the things that make you you in life go. To lose someone before you lose them is the ultimate tragedy of this, and it changes personalities, attitudes. It changes, it breaks down your body physically. And for the families that are around this, who have to be caretakers and have to be the keepers then of the memories, this is such a devastating disease. So that everybody in this community, this gaming community around the world, really, streamers, 125 of you globally, coming together to fight this. Those of you in this panel, all of the voice actors, all of the writers, all of the devs, everybody coming together to drop the gloves on Alzheimer's disease makes a real difference. And I hope that you can make a donation for somebody that you love today. Any little bit helps. It helps somebody find, we're looking for a cure. We're looking to get medication that can help keep someone themselves longer, that's out there right now, but we just can't get the FDA and get Medicare to cover it. We need to get the word out to politicians to make this happen. We're trying to do these things for the caretakers who need guidance, who need help. And at alz.org, you can go there and get help. There's a 24/7 hotline. If you're lost, like I have been,
Yeah.
and you need someone to give you guidance, or someone who just understands what you're going through, reach out to alz.org. And we are, every little penny, any little thing you can give today is going to go a long way towards making that happen. So we're having fun for funds.
Very
And
well
I
said,
couldn't be
Wes.
more grateful to everybody here today for being here and doing this.
Well, first off, so start things off. I think the titles of designer versus lead designer versus senior designer, for a lot of the people in gaming who love these games, to have a little bit of context, what is kind of the difference between those titles in terms of kind of what you guys have done in the past or present?
It's a little bit confusing because at Bethesda, everyone has a project title and a studio title. We're
Oh,
working
okay.
on sort of leveling that out, but we're all basically senior designers, and we all have different project titles.
Gotcha. What is the biggest misconception about what a video game writer is or does?
Well, we're not sitting around playing video games all day.
Wait a minute, I thought that's what you did.
Most of the time.
Okay.
Every now and then we get to.
But you're playing it in your head, aren't you? I mean, when you're writing these things, aren't you kind of visualizing it? Aren't you taking the experiences that you've had playing the kind of games you love and the experiences that you've had and trying to let your imagination go wild to create something that entertains you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's not like we're not all just sitting around with our feet up on the desk, like
Makes it harder to type.
It's work. Yeah, it does make it. Well, you put the keyboard in your lap, but it is serious, often grueling work.
Yeah, there's more to it for at least designers at our company. There's more to it than just simply writing. There's a lot of staging and scripting, which is kind of like minor programming that we do, and there's a whole bunch of that. And to the point of playing games, I mean, whenever I play a game that isn't from our studio, I mean, I learn every single time we play. I mean, Emil and I, or Chappie and I, we play a lot of multiplayer. We all play our games, and we all end up talking about like, oh, what did we see and what did we learn from that? So I think that's super helpful. It's like homework almost, in a weird way.
What a lot of writers of really any kind, whether you're writing a novel or a screenplay or stage play, every writer has a little bit of a ritual. For each of you, do you have a ritual that you have where you just kind of get in the headspace? Is it when you're driving in the car and ideas pop in your head, or is it getting together in a room and just kind of bouncing ideas off each other?
my ritual is to just go. I just like, I mean, I like stream of conscious. I think like I sometimes can be a little bit manic, but like my process is just like, it might be sending an email with dialogue. It's just like, hey, let's talk this out. Let's do it. Like, there's no, the process is really just like, let's do it. Let's go and like create as soon as, and like I've done that. We all of the four of us have done this together where we're like trading emails back and forth, writing scenes together and writing dialogue. And like, that's it. Let's put it in the game. And that's how it goes.
What
How
about you,
important
Will?
is it to have someone to bounce stuff off of like that? That you have each other that you can bounce these ideas around, and how does that help you in the process?
It helps tremendously. I can't even express how much that helps, honestly, because then you're getting an honest opinion back about what you just wrote. And sometimes you're like, yeah, that's not good, or sometimes that you get a really big compliment. So yeah, wouldn't want to write like in a box. I do. Our ideas start out maybe on an individual level, but then like Emil just said, like, yeah, getting in a room with everybody and having it, looking at these things early, having even in the dialogue level, it's super helpful.
When as far as the development process, when it starts, do you begin with the writing, or does it start with the art or the world spaces or technology, or do you have a particular method that you work, or does it kind of change depending on the game that you've worked on?
I mean, we're not operating in a
I
vacuum.
don't want to.
Well, it's everything all at the same time, because it has to be
Concurrently, yeah.
We may have an idea. It may be outside the scope of what art can produce in the time period, or it may be like technologically, it's like, that our time is better spent on something else. So I think it's immediately like a collaborative effort between the multiple departments.
Yeah, it's super handy. We have groups that we put together of elements from each of our divisions in the company, actually, for certain areas of the project. That's super helpful too. Not just writing, but like artists and programmers and everything. We all get together in smaller groups and we work these things out.
Almost like a little creative enclave of sorts. I know a lot of times, even working with other writers in writing groups that I've been to, sometimes when you put yourself in that kind of environment where you're surrounded by artists and sculptors and writers, some things kind of happen organically, just kind of creating that perfect sphere of creativity, and things just kind of evolve. What Bethesda Game Studios' unofficial motto, "Great games are played, not made." What does that mean to you?
Oh man, I think it means that, I kind of liken it to, it's a bit like a science experiment, everything we do. And the game is sort of the laboratory that gives you the real results. That's where the truth is. You can't hide it. It's either in there and it works, or it's not working. So I think I think the most intensive periods are when we're rewriting lines over and over again together and running through it in game and seeing, well, how does this feel in the full context, right? When you can move around and the camera can be anywhere and the characters are moving around and you see all the art and the lighting, that can really change what words mean, right? It's a visual medium. So yeah, you really have to play it to get to really understand it.
Flackles, thank you for that donation. Very much appreciated. So let's dive in here. So Morrowind, going all the way back to 2002. Now,
Yes,
we're going back a little bit of a ways here. So if you don't remember the details, that's perfectly fine, because Lord knows I don't remember the day in, day out of what I was doing back then either. So 6 years after Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall, Game of the Year, 4 million copies worldwide sold by 2005, considered one of the best video games ever made, 2 expansion packs, Tribunal, Blood Moon, Game of the Year edition released in October 2003. Now, Alan and Brian, you both worked on that early on to the base game, and then Emil came in later with Blood Moon, right?
Yeah, I'll defer to Shabby on more of this because I was actually quality assurance back then.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. And then I didn't really begin writing until Oblivion, honestly. So go for it, Shabby.
Well,
Mark.
my unofficial job title at that point was Clutter Monkey. For the base game for Morrowind, I came in about a year before release, and I wasn't doing dialogue at the time. I was the guy going through placing all of the plates and forks and cups and hanging lanterns in the little fishing villages along the coast. And it wasn't until the expansions that I actually dug in on the writing.
Butter Monkey is still a good job if you can get it. Not many have that on their resume.
The editor icon for, I think, for creatures back in the day was actually, it was a little outline of a monkey.
Yep, I remember that.
I remember that.
I mean, that game changed a lot of things. When Morrowind came out, what were you guys? We know, Alan, you were doing QA, and you were a clutter monkey, Brian. But Will and Emil, what were you guys doing while Morrowind was coming about, and what brought you to Bethesda?
Well, I was still in school when Morrowind came out. That's it. Not to date myself or
Wasn't
anything.
quite there yet.
Hey, when you're in school, all you can do is date yourself.
Well, but the success of Morrowind put, sort of Bethesda on the map. And when I was getting my first job out of school, I was working for a media company that did contracting work for the government. We did very important things like HR training manuals. But it was a bunch of younger people, right, who were like fresh out of college, and they were all like, oh, Morrowind, and I think Oblivion's coming out, and you should work there, Will. You're a writer, because I was doing technical writing at the time, and I thought that was a terrible idea. I had no video game experience. But they eventually did an internship for Fallout 3, right after Oblivion, and I applied and gotten in for that.
And what about you, Emil? What were you doing?
I was actually in Austin, Texas, working on Thief Deadly Shadows, which was just called Thief 3 at the time. And I had been emailing with Todd Howard about coming over to Bethesda.
There was a whole group of you that are currently, just considered Bethesda Game Studio royalty right now, who were actually involved in that project in Austin, right?
You have me hung up on royalty.
I'm thinking Mark. Yeah,
Mark Lampert was on Austin. Yep, as well. Mark's our audio director. Yep.
And so, what made you want to leave where you were in Austin and talking to Todd? What enticed you to join the Bethesda Game Studio team?
I had been a Bethesda fan since, Arena. Old school. In fact, something I designed in Thief 2 came from a Bethesda Terminator game that I found out later had actually been designed by Todd Howard, which is crazy. And so I had family back in the East Coast. I wanted to get back, and I really loved Bethesda, and I knew Pete Hines, and he had gone there, so all the pieces sort of fit for me.
Brian, and so go ahead.
No, go ahead, Wes.
I was going to say that led to Oblivion, where things really, from what had happened with Morrowind, suddenly kicked into, full steroid gear with Oblivion, right? What do you think the changes were from Morrowind to Oblivion in regard to the writing and the development?
Yeah. I do remember one quote at the time when we had talked about it with Todd Howard. We were like, if Morrowind is the Lord of the Rings books, Oblivion is the Lord of the Rings movies.
That's a great one.
That's interesting.
Pretty accurate, I think.
And Emil, you'd worked on quest design, the Dark Brotherhood for Oblivion, yeah?
Yep, I did. Yep, Oblivion and Skyrim.
With Morrowind,
I like that storyline.
Yeah, so Oblivion coming in 4 years later, there was more of a focus on plot maybe than with Morrowind, and also the first Elder Scrolls game with fully voiced NPCs, which also talk about transforming kind of the storytelling that you were trying to do there. Wes, was it Morrowind or Oblivion that you came into working with the company?
Well, I was working with the company with Morrowind, and the director, the voice director for the Morrowind sessions was Todd Howard himself. And then once we moved over to Oblivion, it was Mark Lampert who took over, and I got a chance to, basically dig deeply into the dialogue that Emil put together for the Dark Brotherhood, which was just as far as I was concerned, not only was it game changing and industry changing, but it was life changing for me to be able to play that character. So thank you kindly for the words, sir.
You were quite welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I remember back in the day when the voice acting was done. Everything's done in LA now, but it was done locally. I remember commuting. Chappie and I commuted to was like Bethesda or
Yep.
somewhere.
Yeah,
like,
absolute pitch. Yeah, in
Yep.
Bethesda. Yeah.
local studio and to direct sessions. It's crazy.
I do remember you guys coming in and if we had a question about something, you'd be able to tell us what was going on. It was a little more hands-on in regard to getting input from the developers, from the writers and the storytellers to help bring those characters to life. And getting to know you guys was fantastic. I do remember one of my favorite things that happened during Oblivion, and everybody always asked me, do I play the games? And I kind of do obsessively. I had like 600, 700 hours into Morrowind, which really changed the way I voiced things for Oblivion because you get very immersed in it. And I knew that you could break into back doors and steal things. And so I did that at one of the mages guilds. Went in the back door and stole myself a nice black soul gem and charged up my sword with it and started making my merry way along until I realized that was a quest item that suddenly blocked me from playing anything else in the Mages Guild. So I went to Brian and was talking. Brian tried everything he could to help patch and get me back
I
in.
knew you were going to bring this up. It's been almost 20 years, and every time I see you,
I played like 600-700 hours in Oblivion without doing a Mages Guild once. I was just hack and slash, Mr. Hack and Slash throughout it, and then eventually started back and did another game with a different character who did a lot more magic. But it was a very interesting thing that you have so many little items that you guys have to put together for all of these stories, so many little things. Is it hard not to have stuff disappear through the cracks? And is that what you count on QA for, is to find those things and bring them back? And then what do you do? Is it rewrites? How do you do that?
I mean, I think so for Morrowind, we were much more cavalier about it, and we had that message box that would come up that would say, you've severed the thread of prophecy, and
Little
we just
meme
said,
these
like,
days, yeah.
you're on your own, pal. For Oblivion Onward, I think we do the best we can to find as many of these things ahead of time, but it's definitely a challenge of making a big open world game, is that it is difficult to anticipate everything the player can do. And I do think that to a certain degree it goes into the writing, is like you're trying to craft a story that is for the most part pretty linear, but you're going into it with the understanding that at any point the player can pull out a sword or a gun or just walk away from it forever.
Yeah.
So that does go into the process to a certain degree. I think we patched whatever it was that happened to you, Wes. We just couldn't recover your
just that game, that one
game.
game. Yeah.
Yep.
I would
remember
say,
the look on your face though, that was priceless. You're just like, oh, really? Oh.
Sorry, Emma, I think you were going to say something.
Albus. Go ahead, Al.
Oh, I was just going to say,
Alan,
you mentioned QA, and I know, yes, I'm a little biased because I was QA at one point, but like we could not do this game without them. They are 100% integrated. Sometimes people may, treat those guys as like, it's also QA, but it's honestly, to me, they're equal with the rest of the team. And like, I've had some team members on all the projects that have been from QA that have been amazing and found stuff I never would have thought of. So I just have to say that as a part of the process, it's definitely invaluable.
Is the job of QA to just try to break the game?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there's some bugs that are like, wow, how did they even think of that? And it blows my mind, honestly. I think all of us could agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a tough job. They have to run through the game every day. Sometimes, the whole game, right? We make really big games. So they're like speed running through the whole game every week just to make sure that nothing new has broken something, right? So it's like, hey, you've run through this thing 100 times, 200 times, right? And just trying to see, has anything changed, right? Is there some sort of variance here that could indicate a big problem? It's tough.
I mean, you guys are basically writing a multiverse every time you write a storyline, because you have so many different variants, like you say, that can happen because of the player coming in and going in many different directions. You were the multiverse before the MCU started multiversing.
Well, Wes, you were talking about, the great games are played, not made. And one of the things is when you play your own game as you're developing it, and one of the things you really want to do as a quest designer is you want to find opportunities. You sort of have to, you want to be a little bit clairvoyant. You're getting into the player's headspace. So you want to be like, if I were the player and I did something like I completed this quest and I found this thing, what would I want to do? I'd want to go tell this person about and see how they react. And you have these little moments where you're like, oh yeah. And so then it's your responsibility to go and put in that interaction. So when the player has the same thought, they're going, I wonder if they did something for this, and they go talk to this person, like, sure enough, the designer thought of it. And like, that's always a really rewarding thing when they realize how many bases we cover and stuff like that.
That's a crazy like level of duality, because not only are you creating a universe with characters and their own stories and interactions, you're also trying to anticipate what the player is going to do in those situations. So you're kind of juggling this kind of thing. Yeah.
In Fallout 3, we try to handle so much. We ended up having a rule, like the player can only make 2 decisions before we have to say enough. Like you can like accept a quest from someone, and then because in Fallout 3 you could kill almost anyone. You could kill your quest giver left and right. And so we really wanted to be like, you kill the quest giver, but you can still complete the quest. And then what if I decide to do this? At some point we're like, okay, we can't let the player do everything.
You make choices, you get consequences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Speaking of Fallout 3, so that brings us here to 2008. So Emil, your lead designer, lead writer, February 2009, honored as one of the top 20 game writers by Gama Sutra. You also did a character, a CB radio that you did. Was that the first character that you voiced in a game?
No, I had voiced characters in Thief.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I did. I voiced a few characters in all of our games. I do a couple of the Super Mutant. I do the Super Mutant voice. I'm the announcer for the Silver Shroud radio stuff. So I've slipped in a little bit of stuff here and there. I have in the past anyway. It's fun.
You worked on the opening beats of that with Ron Perlman, yeah?
The beginning of
for Fallout 3.
I wrote the openings of Fallout 3 and 4. Yeah. Those opening sequences.
Were you working with him directly and in the session? Like, okay, one more time, Ron.
Over the phone.
Okay.
Yeah. He was in LA, I believe, and we were in Rockville, and we were directing Todd and Mark and I, and we were directing those sessions over the phone in a conference room.
And if you're a fan of Fallout, to be able to work with Ron Perlman in that kind of situation, it's got to just be epic.
Yeah, it's whenever we've got to work with real talent, it's been really incredible. We did Liam Neeson was the dad in Fallout 3. He was incredible. Malcolm McDowell actually recorded his stuff the same way that Ron Perlman did, over the phone in a conference room. And he was great. He was amazing.
Malcolm McDowell.
What a legend that man is.
Yeah, seriously.
And Will, this is when you came into the company working as an intern initially back in 2007.
Yeah, that's right. I came in and they were like, all right, you can if you accept the internship, just know that you'll never get a job here. And
no,
it was like a 6 months internship, and then after that,
you're like, watch me.
Get a job? No, they were like, no, get out.
What do you do as an intern? I mean, they had great craft services there in the cafeteria. So, I mean, are you not getting coffee?
They did have me get coffee once as a joke. You can't not be an intern and get coffee. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll get coffee. They're like, remember all these orders because we're going to do this all the time. They never did it again. I did it once. But yeah, I worked on, what was it? this big town in the Republic of Dave. There was actually two of us in an internship that tag teamed on the Republic of Dave together. And yeah, I left and worked on a bunch of other stuff, and I came back for Skyrim.
Well, that's awesome. Alan, what did you work on with Fallout 3?
I did a bunch of the miscellaneous sort of one-off quests, I believe. I think I did the helped with the Oasis one. This is going. Didn't I do that? Yeah, right.
Yeah, the ants, the fire ants.
Yeah. Gray Ditch, right? I did that too. Yeah. So I did a lot of those one-off. That's kind of like when you're cutting your teeth as a designer. That's why they kind of start you with those little one-offs, and then you get moved up the ladder. You get to do factions or whatever. So, but anyway, those are kind of fun though, because they're like little teeny individualized stories, and I kind of enjoy that actually. Just quick open, quick close, have a little fun activity. Those are really fun.
And I was reading too that the first asset created for Fallout 3 was that T-45 power armor, that now iconic front cover. In fact, that's what drew me to Fallout, a Christmas gift card to Best Buy. And I happened to see it looking at it. I was like, well, that looks interesting. It drew me right in.
I think that's a really early part of every project it's sort of like setting the tone with a couple of pieces of art. And that one clearly had an impact.
Well, the artists you guys have worked with over at Bethesda have been, I mean, legendary in and of themselves. Adam was beyond peer, and Ray's just fantastic. I mean, what do you inspire them? Do they inspire you? How does that work, the back and forth?
It's reciprocal, definitely. Like we definitely work with them, and then they work with us. They're great. They're all great. That's like, I get excited when I see a piece of concept art for something that I might be working on, actually, because now I'm visualizing it too, and that helps me write it better, frankly.
When you can see it, you can play with it, right?
I will say,
oh, I'm sorry. I have a terrible memory. I very specifically remember the day that Adam came in to interview. I happened to be sitting in the next booth in the lunchroom as he was sitting with Todd and a couple of other people. And it was just this massive book of his work that he was flipping through. And I kind of looked over and I was like, oh my, this guy is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Adam was absolutely integral to the look and feel of Fallout. And all of the concept artists we've had, it's really wonderful to work with, because I think we go in with an initial idea and then we look at what they're doing. And like Al said, it's this very reciprocal process where, oh, wow, I never thought of that. Here's how we could use that. Also, what do you think this would look like? And then we're just off to the races.
I so loved seeing his work at the Smithsonian.
It was at the Smithsonian?
Incredible.
Yeah, it was at National Portrait Gallery, I think, or something.
Yeah,
there was a big video game exhibit, and yeah, it was totally in a museum. I mean, that shows you. That says a lot.
Gooseflesh thinking about it. It was just amazing to see. Cheers to Adam, guys. Yeah. Cheers to Adam.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Adam Adamowicz. Everyone, if you ever get a chance to look back, look up him and his concept art for Fallout 3, and it was interesting to see the iterations. So taking something that is 2D isometric and transforming it into like a full 3D world. In a lot of his concept art, you could see the different styles and aesthetics he kind of started with and refined and refined and refined. What brought you to DC as a setting?
At that time, it was DC had never really been used as a setting in a video game, and the big Fallout has the big Americana thing, and we had all the monuments, the Washington Monument, the Capitol building, the Abe Lincoln Memorial, and so I remember talking to Todd about it, and it's just, and we live in the DC area. It seemed like such a natural fit.
You were doing the summer blockbuster in DC before summer blockbusters then. What now, Emil, you and Todd both had young children at the time. As far as from a writing standpoint, that the feeling of family and the story of between a father and a son and sacrifice and all of those kind of messages are really strongly in Fallout 3. So what was going on in your life? Do you think it influenced a lot of that story?
No, I was definitely, I was a new dad, and I had somewhere in there, I had twins too. The another interesting thing that happened when we were making Fallout 3, complete coincidence, but Cormac McCarthy's The Road came out, which is about a guy escorting his kid across the post-apocalyptic landscape. And it was like the similarities were really eerie, and it was like that really resonated with us. That was super powerful.
With how did the vision and scale of Fallout 3 kind of change from concept to execution? Do you usually start with huge ideas and then you kind of whittle down into what even technology can do? Like with DC, I think downtown DC was considerably larger than what ended up being shipped.
Yeah, it was, and it was different districts, so it was different maps that were connected, and we didn't really know how big we should make it. There are subway sections in Fallout 3, and at one point there was a plan to actually connect all of the city through the subway, so they're all connected underneath the city.
Mm-hmm.
It became too big and too much to manage, and just not really fun for the player. Yeah, at the end of the day, that's always what we come back to. Like, it may be believable and realistic, but really, is it fun? And if it's not, then we'll dial it down.
Do sometimes, as from a process standpoint, when you're dealing with world spaces that big, is it sometimes then hard to take a look at that scale and then figure out, well, we have to have something going on here, so we've got to put writing here, or is it a matter of building the world space and then thinking about what you're going to put where, or does that kind of happen all at the same time as far as development goes?
I will let these guys answer that, but I will say overall that I don't think coming up with ideas is ever a problem for us. We know, like, we'll have, like, we know what we want to do in cities. It's always a matter of time and schedule.
Yeah.
Have you had to lose anything that was like your baby you just loved, but it had to be cut for time or practicality and it just killed you?
Thankfully, no, I don't think.
Yeah, we're pretty good about that. I think what happens is we get focused on particular things we like, and then we run it by the group, and everybody, I think all our instincts are good. That's, and we worked well together. So we kind of go, yeah, let's keep with that. Let's stay with that thing that you really, really loved. I mean, there's always elements of stuff we do. Like if you write a storyline that maybe have to be trimmed down for time, you're like, oh, darn, because that would have been like, that would have expanded that character or something like that. But I mean, Emil said it best. I mean, it's time and there's personnel to consider, because every little thing that we do, and just like that they do, that's going to take up people's time. If I have another dungeon or another whole quest or something like that, that's not just my time at all. That's tons of people's time. So that has to be considered. It can blossom into a big problem, actually. So I'm kind of, as much as I hate to say it, I'm kind of glad we try to maintain that as best as we can.
So you're saying you guys are the ones to blame for the times I sit down and think I'm going to play for a half an hour at night before I go to bed, and then I hear the birds chirping outside and my day is toast, right?
Sometimes.
Absolutely.
One of these.
Well, I was just going to say, we've been working together for so long, and we've been doing this for so long, that I think we know how to roll with changes like that pretty well. Like, I'll give a quick example. In Fallout 4, there's a quest in Salem, Massachusetts, where there's a death claw in the Witch Museum. It's this very sort of claustrophobic horror experience. Originally, in real life, there's a town of Salem and the town of Danvers, and there's sort of like high school rivalry. I'm from that area, so. And originally, that was the plan in the game. In the game, there was this plan to have this sort of like, almost like these mutants that had powers that came from radiation. It's sort of like superhero mutants, and then there were these two cities that were against each other. Then we realized when the map got condensed, the cities were too close together, so we had that didn't work. We also realized that the magic code that we had in the game for Skyrim had gotten stripped out when we started making Fallout 4, so we couldn't do that. And so we ended up, then we had to, instead of cutting it, I remember working with the designer Liam Collins at that time and feeling like, instead of cutting this completely, what is something we can do? And that's where the Witch Museum thing came out.
Oh, that's
Have
awesome.
compromises like that ever pushed you into something that you thought later, wow, this was better?
I thought that was better, honestly.
Yeah.
Much more condensed. It was scary. It was fun. It was good loot. Yeah.
Well,
Usually, I think it's better.
that happens all the time. I got to be honest. I mean, maybe with me more, I don't know. But like everybody thinks their own stuff's great, it's perfect, whatever. And then, when people point out, I mean, that's why we have these other guys. It's not just me, because sometimes you have to be told like, hey, that's not really working. Well, let's try this instead. But these guys are good also at like not saying let's not do it at all, but just find a better way. And I think that's another value, reason that this team is great, honestly, because having that resource, that's amazing.
I think those moments that you talked about, those claustrophobic moments, I remember that from Fallout 4. That was terrifying. Tranquility Lane, that whole fever dream of a scenario, and then the pint-sized slasher, that dark humor and the cheery music the whole time. You never forget those kind of moments at all, really. Even with in Fallout 4, some of the darker moments when you talk about Pickman's Gallery. Good Lord, is it terrifying in there? With Fallout 3, the as far as memories, is there anything that you remember really concretely about that game? Maybe it was something you created or something from playing it that really sticks in your mind.
Fallout 3.
Yeah.
Well, for me, the one of the best memories is when we first revealed the game at PAX, and we had our first playable, and we had a great sort of, was it E3 or PAX? I think it was PAX, and we had refurbished an old Airstream trailer that we did interviews in, and like we had this little setup like an old like a 1950s, like this is right on the show floor, a 1950s little neighborhood with white picket fences, and we had the machine set up to play, and there was a line around the corner to play Fallout 3.
That reminds me of did we do like a Best Buy thing where you guys signed
Yeah.
stuff? You guys signed stuff or something? That was pretty crazy because I didn't expect to see so many people there, but there was so many fans there. That was awesome. I
One of
remember
my
that.
favorite pictures from that night has you and me in it, Alan, where we're standing in front of one of the mannequins,
Oh,
blown
wow.
up
Okay, yeah, that's
mannequins
right.
at the store.
Wow.
And I think Mike Rawson and Jan Johns were there as well in the photo with us. And that was a fun night. That was a really fun night because people were just very excited to play the game. It was laid out just beautifully as far as all of the I mean, it's not laid out as beautifully as the lobby. If anybody ever saw what Bethesda Game Studios looks like today, that's turned into like Epcot Center, but it was beautiful nonetheless. I love that night.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, Fallout 3 was the game that got me into Fallout. And Todd talks a lot about step out moments. And that game, out of really any game that I've played of yours since, that growing up in the vault sequence, growing up and building a relationship, and the moment when you walk out and the world opens below you, no matter how old I get, I will never forget that moment. As far as thinking about moments like that have such a strong resonance with the character, how does as creating that come about? Do you think about that early on, like we have to create a step out moment, and then you kind of work backwards from that? Or does it just kind of evolve organically? We're like, this is going to be the moment right here because it feels right.
That is the seed that comes from Todd Howard, the wellspring from which the game flows. It's always the very beginning moment. It always starts with Todd and where he wants to see it. He's great about that.
Now we come to Skyrim. So Skyrim, one of the best-selling games in history, critically acclaimed, 3.4 million physical copies in the first 48 hours. 7 million copies shipped the first week. $450 million made in the first week. Fastest-selling Steam title of its time. GameRant calls it the most massive and enjoyable open-world titles ever. What is it about Skyrim where it just won't die? People are still playing it, still modding it. It's crazy that it just keeps going.
I think
Even
it's
on
hard to
Alexa.
It's a hard one to answer.
Yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard to
it
answer
is.
without sounding egotistical.
No,
Oh,
go
go
for it.
ahead.
I mean,
Yeah.
Well, no,
Go.
I don't, because I think the four of us played a part in that, but I think it's a world that you can get lost in. There are so many different things that you can do in that game, and a lot of them have little or nothing to do with the writers. The level design in that game is outstanding. The environmental storytelling, everything just clicked in an incredible way.
Yeah, look, Skyrim is exciting and fun, right? But it's also cozy and charming, right? It's
Yeah.
like, it is this world where like sometimes it's cold outside and you're by this little fire and you can live in this world and you can adopt kids and like it's just a very easy game. It's like The Sims. You get lost in it. You know, I think that's where a lot of the appeal is.
How many? I do remember getting married in the game and having a couple of adopted kids, and I'm in doing one of those scenes, and when my wife comes in, and I felt like I was cheating. I felt so guilty. It's like, sorry, honey, I'm with the other family right now.
Don't mind me. I'm just getting married over in Riften. It's all right.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I was
Will.
going to say it's such a wonderful experience. Even today, I just got the 10th anniversary edition, which when I put it on the Xbox X, suddenly looking at it on a 4K screen, it was more beautiful and breathtaking than I'd ever seen it before, and played a whole new game than I'd ever played before as many times as I'd played through it again. The replayability of Skyrim, everybody talks about how it's on different formats, it's on here, there, but the replayability is insane.
244 quests, and I've played this game a lot, and I have not finished them all. And you're right. You just get lost in them. And sorry, Will, you were going to say something there earlier.
Oh, since you brought up marriage, so I worked on the marriage system, and it was pretty funny at the time. I was the only one on the quest design staff who wasn't married, but for some reason I ended up with having to do the marriage system. And we actually tried a lot of different systemic quests that would like mimic engagement and like different ways of courting people. And we ended up chopping it all because it was just weird, right? Like it would be out of step with that kind of character or your expectations for what they would do, because it had to all be systemic. And so we shrunk it down to just the necklace of Mara and then the ceremony itself. And then I had to write a wedding ceremony, even though I was the only one who had been married.
There are still unforeseen complications you can run into. Like my character in one of my first playthroughs ended up marrying, is it Camille down in Riverwood?
Yeah, Riverwood.
Yeah, the trader's shop. And moving her away to another location, you've still got this elf who keeps showing up going, hey, you think I can get lucky with your wife? It's very awkward. Even when he ended up getting killed somehow and ending up in my fire pit burning for what must have been months, she would still come in, be cooking dinner over him, and occasionally go, oh my. And then she'd just continue on. So yeah.
Wes with his chaos character build.
That's he's just set up to go visit her, and we thought, oh well, he just has to walk down the way because she's in Riverwood, and then the system kind of pulls her to wherever your house is, and so he'll show up.
He will. Hey, Sven at least had the respect of knowing she's in a relationship now, but not this elf guy. He's like, and he's still trying to get.
Skyrim is awesome. I had no idea that could happen.
Oh,
that's the thing about Skyrim. There's so many weird things that can happen. You can't keep track of them all. It's great.
Do you all have any special memories from working on Skyrim? Anything that really sticks out to you, either in game or just from development?
I was lucky enough to be able to work on the Thieves Guild and the Nightingale stuff and all that, and also you mentioned Riften. I mean, I did Riften as well because it's kind of all integrated, and that was just working with the group. Like I was saying before, when we paired with other people, just working with that group, and Chappie said this before. I mean, it just clicked. Like everything clicked in these locations, and the story for me it was very memorable to be able to work on. That was also my first like long storyline thing that I did. That wasn't just a one-off. And I don't know, for some reason that'll always stick with me forever, for sure, no matter what games I do in the future.
With
Do you visit every once in a while? Do they write? Do they call?
So now we come to so Fallout 4 2015, massive, huge launch. I mean, marketing activations anywhere. That was just an insane launch. With Fallout 4, what are some of the kind of the changes, the opportunities? What are some of the things that you wanted to do from a writing standpoint that was maybe different that you learned from Fallout 3?
I think one of the things we've talked about that collectively as a group is that, we always want our writing to be less video gamey, and the thing is when you write Elder Scrolls, it's very sort of, even writing Elder Scrolls is hard for us because there's a sort of fantasy shtick, and Fallout is a more sort of realistic. Let's put it this way: in Elder Scrolls, it's normal for someone to say "Hail and well met, adventure." It's like that's not sort of the like. No one actually talks like that, And in Fallout 4, we really like, how do people actually talk? When you go into a store, and really trying to improve dialogue like that, and work on stuff like that. That was really important for us, and have some really meaty emotional moments, I think.
That's a good point. Shifting gears between worlds like that is definitely a writing challenge, because you look back at like your first drafts and stuff like that, and you're like, and Emil rightfully or whomever will be like, that's a little too Elder Scrolls. So we'll know exactly what he means when he says, like, if you're shifting to Fallout, it's a whole different tone and a whole different way of talking. You're not gonna have someone else going, "Hey, how you doing?" But you might have somebody like that in Fallout, right? So it's fun to like. It's a good writing challenge to have to shift worlds like that.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Emil, about the radio program. Did you love old style radio? Is that when you're putting together the whole Silver Shroud serials? Because for me, I'm a huge fan of like Mel Blanc, old time radio. I mean, I keep this thing with me at all times. For you, what was it like to get into that world, and was it something that you loved before you started doing it?
I did. I did. The first time I did it was in Fallout 3, and it was the adventures of Herbert Daring Dashwood. And,
Yeah.
and I don't know why. I knew we had well, that was the first time we came up with the idea of the radio station, and I like a radio play just seemed like a very Fallouty thing. And I do very much like that stuff. So yeah.
And it falls into the 1950s kind of feel that you get out of Fallout as well. That all,
It does.
it's the good flavor.
And one of the tricks as a quest designer is that you can, and I remember doing this in Oblivion, is sometimes you can set a stage with sound, and a lot of times like Al and Champion will know, we sometimes don't have the art budget or the animation budget to do something, and we can't show everything we want. So a couple of times I would cheat and just have like a locked door and a sound plate behind it, and I think I was sort of thinking those ways, like tools in the tool bag for a game designer. Oh, we can do a radio play, and
Well, the mind with audio fills in all the things. You may think you're seeing something when you're really hearing it, because your mind fills in all those little blanks.
Totally.
And honestly, those radio plays from Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, I missed them so bad in 76, and now we have pirate radio, and now we actually have those radio dramas now. I was really glad they returned. So speaking of Fallout 76, so we start in a unique challenge from a writing standpoint, where you have now a multiplayer game where the characters are essentially the players themselves, kind of creating their own experience with friends on their own, in what was initially more of a PvP scenario, where you're trying to tell a story in a very different way than you've done before, which is everyone's dead. You've got corpses and Wes Johnson as Protectrons. How did that change your writing style, or how did you kind of piece together those stories, just kind of leaning into notes initially?
Yeah, it was a lot of notes. And well, I think one of the things we realized we had to add was, Emma and I worked on the overseers notes together. Because we realized, though, we kind of need a character that's leading you through uh, the everything that's happening in the world and giving you the sense of the purpose. Because for a while it was just like, hey, the vault's opened, and get out there. And then we needed a through line. So the character of the overseer actually came really late.
Yep.
Voiced by the amazing Adrienne Barbeau. That
She was amazing in the booth, by the way. Like, just came in there and belted it. It was great.
yeah, she's awesome. We interviewed her yesterday, chat, and if you get a chance, you can go back and check out the VOD. So with Fallout 76, were there any memories that you have from really creating that? Some characters, quests, or locations?
Well, during the Wastelanders update, we actually brought the overseer back, and we actually made her a character you can interact with. So that was a lot of fun. It was great to like also come back to her story and try to have the conclusion for it. Like you can finally give her all the tapes, right? Like that was a big.
I was
thing.
so glad. I was getting OCD with them in my.
I was like, because I had an argument about it. I was like, no, they're quest objects. We should just hold on to them. They're like, Will, we want to get rid of these tapes. We don't want the tapes anymore. Let me turn in the tapes. I was like, okay, fine, I'll turn in the tapes. Get rid of the tapes. That's fine.
So 76 was interesting for us because most of the development had been done by the folks in Austin at BGS Austin, and then we came in later to add content and do some stuff, and then when the Wastelanders expansion came out, then it was more of an all hands on deck type of thing.
Whose idea was it to get the Foshnocks to sing, the Protectrons?
Wes wants a word.
Well,
I don't know. Good question.
Yeah, it's like we need someone to sing very poorly. Get Wes. That's normally how that goes.
And earlier we talked a little bit about mods. You have a very unique relationship as a game company with modders. In that a lot of that is particularly with Skyrim, when you talk about the fact that game just won't die. There are, I don't even know how many mods there are now at this point to transform it, recreate it, add things, change world spaces. Have you ever seen a mod where you've thought, wow, that is really unique, or I wish I would have thought of that?
100%. I get something. So it was like a couple years ago at my other place, my son was up in his bedroom, and I went in and I knocked and came in because I needed to ask him something. And he's at his computer, and I couldn't parse what was going on because it really looked like he was playing co-op Skyrim. And he was in Bleak Falls Barrow with his friend playing co-op. There was a co-op mod. And I was like, duh. It was just the weirdest thing to see it. And it was really, really cool. It was working really well. That was really fantastic.
Normally, that's not the kind of thing parents are shocked they see their kids on the computer with when they walk in. But
unfortunately, plenty of those mods exist too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now,
I remember when my kids were smaller and they were playing Oblivion, and I could hear my voice as one of the Imperial Guards in the back bedroom saying things like, "Halt, criminal scum." And then I'd hear the sound of my kids chopping me to death. I think that that's got to be some kind of great therapy for the kids, and if they can do that on a game and leave dad alone with the actual swords, I'm okay with that.
I was playing, I think it was the anniversary edition of Skyrim recently, and I was running through it, and I had gotten a note from someone about this property, and there was a squatter on it. You had to go deal with them. I was like, wait, I've never seen this before, and it was one of the creations, the professional creations we had made. And I was like, and then I rediscovered the fishing mini game that they had added in, all the fishing content. And I was like, wow, over a decade later, and there's still an endless supply of stuff that I've never seen before.
Yeah, that anniversary edition packed with all kinds of really, really cool quality of life and interesting new quests. And I found myself, it was surprising. You were talking earlier about the fact that it's relaxing. It's surprisingly cathartic to just sit and listen to the music, and you got the aurora over you and you're fishing, and it's just relaxing. It's great.
Yeah, I forgot about the fishing. I was showing my wife Skyrim for the first time, and we came to a fishing thing. I was like, I didn't remember that you could fish in Skyrim, and I was like, where did this come from? And then I remembered the mod content of it and the creation content. I was like, wow, crazy.
All right, so we're coming towards the end here. So Desert Island question. One quest in any game you've worked on you can return to time and time again because it's your personal favorite or holds a special place in your heart. Which one would it be? Emil.
Oh, wow. Probably the Whodunit quest from the Dark Brotherhood and Oblivion. I just had a lot of fun. It was like the sort of and then there were the Agatha Christie, and then there were nun quests where you have to kill everyone in a house and have
Party.
I had
nobody knows. Yeah.
And so that was always I didn't have a lot of trouble implementing that quest. I was really into it. It was just really fun to implement, and yeah, I just remember having fun with that.
What about you, Will?
All right, so my favorite quest was one I did from Skyrim. It's called the Taste of Death. It's the cannibal quest, and I remember it specifically because it was the first quest that Emil reviewed when I started, and he said, "Will, this is the worst quest in the game. Like, this is an example of everything we're doing wrong. And I don't want to pick on you, but we've got big writing problems, and you really need to level up here." And I rewrote that like 3 or 4 times, and I was really happy that, but in the final product, right, when you're dealing with the Namira priestess, all of the horror fans on the dev team was like, "We love this character. She's the best. You know, follow me into darkness forever." And I was like, I was like, okay, I'm not going to get fired. You know?
Oh, well, see, look where you are today.
Who'd have thunk it?
What about you, Alan?
That's really difficult. I'm gonna just defer back to the Thieves Guild as a quest line because it's all one contiguous story to me, and I just love that thing. It just it clicks so well. And maybe as a side note, I mean the Nirnroot stuff I came up with, which makes yes, I am responsible for why you have to go get 100 of those things. So
I've never found them all. Never.
Yeah, but it was never meant to be going after 100 all at once. You're supposed to find them as you go, and that's why. So there you go. No, but
the Nirnroot we found along the way.
Yes, exactly. So, but those are really fun moments that stick out in my head for sure.
What about you, Brian?
It's a tough call. I think I'm going to go with meeting Father in the Institute in Fallout 4.
What a twist.
That was, Emil, I don't remember how many revisions of that conversation that we did over the years. That was a big piece of it, but then also for me, it was super important. I was like, listen, we gotta let you shoot him. We have to handle, like, what if you don't want to deal with this? What do we do? We have to let you get away with it. And I'm really glad that we took the time.
Yeah, that was a very unexpected moment for me.
Yeah, we knew when we were doing the game that the kid was Father, but we really didn't know how we were gonna write that. And then like Chab, you spent a lot of time just thinking about it and talking about it, taking it seriously, and like, wow, it was boy.
And that was definitely a case where like we did some revisions, we did some drafts of that, and then once we cast the role and we had that to work with, then we could kind of go back and say, all right, well, now I know what he sounds like.
Yeah.
How can we use that to our advantage? And I think that helped a lot.
For writers or developers, I think the things we write or perform are like our kids in a way. But that being said, what is a game or quest or character or something in a game you've worked on that's really near and dear to you?
I got an easy answer if you guys need time to think.
Go
ahead.
Okay. I don't even have to think about this. It is 100%. It's Travis Miles from Fallout 4.
Travis was so good.
So that was Emil's idea that he handed to me and was like, listen, we need the radio DJ, and he has like no self-confidence. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And so I spent a lot of time writing that. And then we at that point, that was when all of the characters were being all the voice recording was being done out in LA with a few notable exceptions, present company included. And we would get auditions back, and it was this sort of secretive process where like we weren't exactly telling people what they were auditioning for. I think somebody, maybe Mark Lampert, actually wrote up like an entire separate thing for them to read that wasn't directly related. We got a list of like 18 to 20 auditions back, and then they would say, who do you want to go with? And I was going through the list, and I was like 3/4 of the way through, and nobody was getting it. It just, like, it was either like a bad like Jerry Lewis impersonation, like or just like overly afraid or whatever. And it was maybe like the second to last one, 5 seconds into it, I'm like, that is the voice that I have heard in my head as I was writing it. And that was Brendan Hunt, who everyone now knows and loves as Coach Beard in Ted Lasso.
Yes.
But like it's those moments where I've been hearing something in my head as I write it, and somebody else can read it for the first time in the recording booth, and it comes out exactly the way I'd heard it. Those moments are absolutely priceless, and I love Travis for that.
Have you guys ever had a situation where somebody did something completely different than what you were thinking about, but you ended up liking it?
Oh, from a voice standpoint, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, you write it in a certain way, you hear it in a certain way, but then when it's performed, somebody else brings something else to it. Is there an instance where you were like, okay, no, this is different than what I thought it was going to be, but I kind of like it?
That happens a lot, I think, honestly. I think the voice actors bring so much to that. We sit with them usually on the first session at the very least, and like discuss the character with them. So I think that's where that gets hashed out. Like when we did, trying to think of an example, when we did Brynjolf for the Thieves Guild, that actor was great. Like he went back and forth. He tried different accents and different voices, and he helped me form the character, frankly. And then going along during that process, he actually said, I think I might say the line a little bit like this way. And we were able to fix some of those lines on the fly, let them read it better. I don't know how much that occurs for you, Wes, but like, sometimes it comes from you guys, from the voice actors,
That's very cool. One person in here has been talking on the chat, Emil, who keeps saying that there was a situation in Thief that they really about a ship that really terrified them, and they wanted to ask you about that.
A cursed ship level that nearly killed me. That they loved.
Cursed ship in Thief. I did a submarine in Thief.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Is that it?
We're going back a ways there, Emil.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
anyway, he's thanking you, or she's thanking you.
That was Nene Chan 00 who asked you that. So have you ever run into Nene Chan?
Okay.
Nene Chan also said, very distracted by your kitty. Your kitty is getting so much love on chat right now.
I forget he's even here. He's on my lap constantly.
You're petting him like you're some kind of
Evil villain.
James Bond villain. Yeah.
That tracks.
I expect you to die, Mr. Bond.
Elder Scrolls moment, Fallout Time Machiners, it's day one at Bethesda for each of you. And you've all grown significantly as writers and in your careers. If you could say one thing to your younger self that would be sage advice from an older you, what would you say?
Oh God, I think about this constantly. If I could go back and talk to 13-year-old Emil, I was like, dude, you're gonna live the dream. I'm seriously just like, get through any of this shit that you get through now. You're gonna trust me. It's all gonna work out.
One thing I wish I had realized sooner. I got to this point eventually on Skyrim, but if I could say something, I would say, hey, all the checklists and guidelines and other things that you're being given for the department, toss it all out. This isn't a test, right? Play the game, play your content. Is it good or not, right? Trust your instincts there. it's important to button things down and make sure that you actually covered all the corners. That's what the checklist is for. But the checklist isn't going to make your content good. You have to do that.
Design documents are only as good as, you know, your follow through when you actually start putting stuff in game. Like 100%.
I think the advice I would give myself is, and this is something I think all writers might struggle with in a group setting, is to have humility and accept criticism, because you're working in a team. You're not, like I said, you're not individualized. And it definitely was hard for me. I don't mind saying, you know, at the beginning it was definitely hard for me to go, hey, that's not good. And and you're not used to people just saying that directly to a writer in person, maybe, you know what I mean? So it's you have to like learn some humility and be like, yeah, you know, see it for the whole thing. And I think that's the biggest advice I could give myself.
You know, sort of jumping on that, like as a lead at Bethesda, and as, you know, working on a lead, this one thing, you know, that you learn, and you can only really learn it from practice, is that just because you get to decide things doesn't mean you're right. You know, like sometimes, look, the worst decision is no decision at all. So sometimes you have to make decisions that may not be the right ones, but like you need to listen. You know, if you're like Captain Kirk or Captain Picard always listen to their crew, you know, and like Todd listens to everyone, and like, you know, anyone listens to the folks they're working with, and to, you know, it really is truly collaborative in that regard.
With great power comes great responsibility.
What about you, Brian?
Maybe don't place quite so many cliff racers in the world.
There was a rumor that was you.
Racers.
I will apologize. That was my fault.
Which is why we retcon that with the whole Jub thing. When you meet him in that other realm, we did that where he's like, he was the vanquisher of cliff racers. We tried to like sort of address that for fun for the fans, basically. So that was a kind of a fun thing for there.
I love the flying shoes in Morrowind. We never got flying shoes again, where you could just put on a pair of boots and you could just float above the town. It was almost like fast traveling, but flying. Turns you into Superman.
That scared the crap out of me when I first played Morrowind, because this guy just drops out from the air and dies.
Yeah.
It's because he has these boots of jumping, but
yeah.
Physics.
Don't we all wish we could get a pair of boots for jump every once in a while? You're in a situation and it's just like, excuse me, and you're out of there.
Well, we've more than run out of time here. Thank you all very, very much. We're going through the end of the month still for the Alzheimer's Association, with some more panels coming up, including a very exciting thing that Wes and I have been working on with Emil, speaking of old time radio. So next Saturday, less than a week from today, we're bringing back some of the original voices of Fallout 4 on an original, very silly, non-canon, fun little bit of Nick Valentine coming back.
I'm glad you said non-canon, because when we're talking story with Emily, he goes, "Oh, so this is definitely non-canon."
100% non-canon.
So.
Yeah, this is silly.
Sure, we're clear.
Just 100%. Yeah, very silly.
It's amazing the folks that you got to be in this too. I don't know how you did it. It's really it's incredible.
We can't wait to tell everybody.
We ran out of time. Marcus Jacobs wanted to ask anything, and he asked about 1 million questions. So, Marcus, we're sorry we didn't get to those questions for you. But we touched on so many subjects, and some of them were the ones that you were asking questions about, and some of them were ones that there's this little game called NDA that
right.
A lot of people work on. A lot of people work on this game called NDA. When I talk to other voiceover actors, what are you working on right now? It's a little game called NDA. So, yeah.
Don't forget to watch Starfield Direct Sunday, June 11th.
Oh,
yes, 100%. We are chomping at the bit. So everyone,
say that date again.
I signed up for Xbox Fan Fest,
and also to let folks know that for ESO, Necrom Shadow over Morrowind is going to be coming out. I believe it's the first week of June. On your PCs, and for consoles, it'll be coming out at the end of June. And I had a blast working on that. And you see, it once was a game called NDA. But now I'm able to disclose it. So it's a now disclosure agreement. Yes, I'm playing Hermaeus Morrigan. So that's going to be fun.
Which we're all really excited about. So
Yeah.
next Saturday, 6 p.m., Emma will be acting in it with us as well.
Yeah.
Wes is coming back as the Silver Shroud in a very, very interesting and unique way that you're not going to see coming.
A team up with a very legendary detective.
Stephen Russell back as Detective Nick Valentine. So I'm really excited for y'all to hear this. And there will be some very typical Fallout over the top commercials with all of the charm for the products you know and love. Everything from Vim to war bonds and something that I just wrote today that I think you're going to find funny. So next Saturday,
we have so
6
many
p.m.
guest stars coming in that we can't talk about yet that you're going to be shocked and surprised are there. So we're very excited for this. And it's going to be live. So not only do you get to see a show that's being done live, you get the possibility of a train wreck at the same time. So what's not to tune in for that?
That's what I'm looking forward to.
But we'll make it work. Thank you all very much. Emil, Will, Alan, Brian, thank you all very much for 2 decades of memories to generations of gamers, getting us out of our homes, escaping our lives, enjoying the beautiful worlds that you all create. Everyone hang on tight here, and please keep
Happy
tuning
Mother's
in.
Day to all you mothers out there.
Happy
Same.
Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks for
you,
having
everybody.